Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kayla and today's video is going to be all about grad school and applying to grad school and speech pathology and all that fun stuff. So if you can't relate, you might want to skip this video, but there's going to be a ton of really good info and I'm really excited. First, let's talk about the fact that you guys sent me a crap load of questions, so thank you for that. If you have any other questions you want me to answer, you can email me or shoot me a message on either of my Instagram accounts. So let's get into your questions. There are a lot and I don't want this video to be 20 minutes long. First of all, I just want to share a little bit about me. I am a 22-year-old recent grad of Temple University. I am a current first-year grad student at the University of Delaware for speech-language pathology. One of the biggest questions I got was, how many schools did you apply to? So I applied to 9, which was kind of excessive compared to my friends. I applied to Temple, Delaware, University of Houston, University of Florida, University of Maryland, LaSalle, Salis, which is a smaller school near where I live, Westchester, and Loyola University in Maryland. So that's 9, kind of crazy. Someone asked, how many schools do you suggest we apply to? So this is not really a question I can answer because it is totally dependent upon you financially. How many schools can you apply to, because every application costs money. How many programs can you find that you love? I really don't suggest applying to schools just to apply to them. I think you really need to do some research and figure out if the school is the right fit for you and your goals and your interests. Yeah, I can't really answer that question. I know people who applied to more schools than me. I know a lot of people who applied to less. A lot of people asked what my GPA and my GRE scores were, and at first I didn't want to share them because, first of all, I don't think GRE, GPA, I don't think those things really match up every year. Someone with the same scores as me might not get into anywhere, or they might get into every school they apply to. So I was really hesitant about sharing it. So I'm going to share, but I'm not going to be specific. My GPA was a little bit under 3.5. I had some B's in my undergrad courses. Someone asked a question about, like, I have a B in my class, like, is that going to ruin everything? For me, the answer was no. My GRE scores, it was collectively around a 300. I got a 4 on the writing. Speaking of the GRE, there were a lot of questions regarding, how should I study for the GRE? I'm a sophomore. Should I be thinking about the GRE? First of all, if you're a sophomore, I would say probably not. If test taking, like standardized tests, are something that you really struggle with, you might want to start thinking about like doing a course or finding a book or something like that. Yeah, I mean, sophomore, yeah, junior year is when things start really picking up, and it's also like the hardest year for classes, at least it was for me. So if you're a sophomore, I would say just relax a little bit. The stress will come and the studying will come, so you don't have to rush into it. Everyone asked how I studied for the GRE. So I bought a prep book. I didn't do a class. I just bought like a $25 giant book of practice problems, and then I took a lot of practice tests online because, I don't know if you guys know this, the GRE is on the computer. So there's a lot of websites that offer practice tests for you to complete, and those really helped me. So that was something that I did a lot. I have a blog post. I'm gonna link a whole bunch of blog posts down in the description because I've already talked about a lot of these things on my blog. But I kind of want to make a video just because it's a little bit more personal and I can talk a little bit more freely about everything. I have a blog post that literally just has tons of free resources and sites for you to check out for each section. So definitely check that out if you're worrying about the GRE and you want some tips on how to study. What do you think the deciding factor was in your application that got you in? So I had a lot of outside the classroom experience, and I think that was the biggest deciding factor for me. Obviously, I don't know. This is all just speculation. They don't tell you after you got in. You got in because of X, Y, and Z on your application. Congratulations. So this is just all me guessing. But I had a lot of outside the classroom experience. I volunteered with Jumpstart Philadelphia, a program where I went into preschool classrooms in the area and helped build their language and literacy skills. I was involved in NISLA. I was president my senior year. I had a lot of volunteering experience. I volunteered with the Philadelphia aphasia community at Temple, and I had some research experience. I just think all of that collectively helped me get in. My advice to you undergrads is to just get involved. Straight A's is great, but if you don't have any experience outside the classroom applying that information that you're learning, I think it's honestly a waste. That's not to say that you won't get in anywhere, because there are programs that rely heavily on your GPA. Personally, I think the real value is in using that classroom content in real life experiences, because that's what you're gonna have to do in grad school. Someone asked, what was the most challenging part of trying to get into grad school? And honestly, I think it was just the stress. I was applying to 9 schools basically at the same time. I was writing my personal statement. I was trying to find letters of recommendation. Just like the stress of it all collectively was the most challenging part. Once that was all done, then I would say the most challenging part was waiting. That stuff's probably going to happen to you. There's really nothing I can do that will make that easier. But I will say being really organized is helpful. Getting started on like the GRE and your personal statement early, like the summer before senior year, I think that will also be helpful. I think your senior year self who's trying to juggle classes and applying to grad school will thank you. A lot of you guys asked me just general study tips, and for this question I'm just gonna link a bunch of my college posts below, just all about organizing classes, how I take my notes, how I organize my notes, what I do with my syllabus, all that kind of stuff you can find in the description box. Did you stay in state for grad school or did you move? So I was prepared to move. Like I said, I'm from Pennsylvania, so I applied to Florida, Houston, Maryland, Delaware. I applied out of state and I was prepared to move. I think a lot of times people are afraid to move, so they just stay in their little bubble and apply to schools that are inside that bubble. And I think that really hurts their chances of getting into places. So I would say, you know, branch out, apply to a few places far away, see what happens. My thought was, you know, if I get into that school, then it's meant to be. I'm like meant to go out there. So that didn't happen for me, so I wasn't meant to go out there at that time. So that's how I looked at it. I did move, but I didn't move to Delaware. I live in Westchester right now, which is like kind of a midway point between Delaware and my home. And I'm really lucky because my boyfriend moved with me. He's my roommate. So that is how I worked it out. I would say don't be afraid to move. Don't be afraid to, you know, branch out of your comfort zone. Who were your letters of recommendation from? I had 3 letters of recommendation. 2 were from professors. 1 was from a previous employer, but the job that I worked at was related to speech pathology. One of the professors, I was her like TA kind of thing. So she knew me really well, both in class and outside of class. Another professor, I just had her in class and I did really well, so she wrote me a letter. I also have a blog post on like asking for letters of recommendation and how to build relationships and stuff, so I'll link that below. How hard was it to get in? It's pretty hard. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's hard. But it varies for everyone and it depends a lot on you, like your individual stats, and also the schools that you are applying to. So, I mean, someone with your stats, like say you apply to 5 schools and you don't get into any, but you change them up and you apply to different areas and you apply to 5 schools again, with the same stats, you could get into all 5. So I just really think it's just a crapshoot trying to figure out, you know, what you're interested in, what your scores look like, what you look like as a whole picture, as well as what schools you decide to apply to. There's really no advice I can give on that. It's just like, but going back to the point I said earlier, don't be afraid to branch out, go to a different place and see how that goes. Someone wanted to know like how many schools I got into, how many schools I was rejected from, how many schools I was waitlisted. So here we go. I was rejected from Florida, Maryland, Westchester, LaSalle, and Houston. I was waitlisted at Temple and Delaware at first, and Loyola, and the only school I was accepted to right off the bat was Salis. But they were accepting me under the condition that I had to take a bunch of prereq courses that weren't required for any other school. So you can understand why I'm not at Salis right now. Sorry, Salis. So yeah, you might be surprised to learn that I was waitlisted at Delaware at first. So that happens a lot to a lot of people. I was freaking out because the first 4 letters I got back were all rejections and I was starting to panic. and the wait list came in and I was feeling a little better. I did get accepted to Delaware first. Salus took until like beginning of May to get back to me with their decision because I had to do an interview and all this stuff. I got into Delaware first and I loved it. I took a tour and that's why I'm here right now. How does SIDCAS work? It's an online portal, sort of like the Common App, if you remember that when you're applying to undergrad. Not all schools are on it, so that kind of sucks. If a school's not on it, then you have to do their own portal on their website and get all the stuff in there. But it does make it easy to keep track of like your transcripts, your letters of recommendation. Whoever you're asking for your letter of rec, they can upload it onto SIDCAS and it'll just go to all the schools, so you don't have to deal with it. How did you figure out which programs were better than others? I applied to schools that were good for me. I didn't really care if they were #1 in the country. I know there's a lot of US World News rankings of like speech programs. Don't really pay attention to that because I don't really think it's accurate. I think you just need to figure out what's best for you. I think they're all pretty similar, and when we all come out of this, we're all gonna have the same degree and same license and all that stuff. So what kind of shadowing experiences did you have? I shadowed a lot in the clinic at Temple, and then I shadowed in the schools a lot also. Everything that I did shadowing wise was in person, and I think that is super important. I know there's a lot of ways you can shadow virtually, but I think the best thing is for you to go out there and meet these SLPs and ask them questions and see firsthand what therapy looks like, because I think you learn so much more that way. I also have a blog post on like shadowing tips, so again, it'll be in the description box. What can I do besides the grades, shadowing / volunteer experience, GRE, and letter of recommendation to really stand out to the admission committees? So I think by writing a unique personal statement, you can really make yourself stand out. Think of out-of-the-box experiences you might have had that maybe aren't directly related to speech, but you can kind of turn it into that. One of my professors always raved about this personal statement that she read. The applicant was a waitress, and she related what she learned as a waitress and how it will help her be a great SLP, and she just raved about this letter, and she was like, it was just so great and unique, and everything she said really made sense, even though, you know, waitressing, like, you don't really think of that being related to speech, but I don't know, something to think about. Is there anything that you didn't do during your undergraduate career that you wish you would have done, especially knowing what you do now about grad school and the general application process itself? This question was kind of hard, but the only thing I could think of was just getting involved in research earlier, because I actually really liked it, but I only had a year to do it because I started my senior year. I don't really have any regrets. I think I came into grad school with a really unique set of skills and experiences, and you know, everything has really helped me, and there's no way we can do everything. Like, there's just no way. You can't do every single thing you want to do in undergrad. You can't have every single experience, but I think you can pick and choose the ones that matter, and then just, you know, really relish in those experiences and opportunities and make it part of you. So I think that's what I did. I didn't do everything, but I did a lot of things, and I did them well, and I was dedicated. So I think that is the key above everything else. Someone had a question about like keeping letter of recommendation letters confidential, and I kind of explained this already, but most applications are online nowadays. I didn't have any programs that I had to like physically submit a letter. So if you do have to submit a letter, you just give them addressed and stamped envelope, and they'll mail it out themselves. So that eliminates you seeing the letter. And if they're doing it through an online portal, they'll have a password or a link that they can go through to submit. Same thing with SIDCAS, so you really don't have to worry about that at all. Personal statement tips. Did you keep them the same for every school, or did you write a different one? Some schools had prompts, so like I had to write a unique one for that school, but I mostly just kept them the same and changed the school names. But be really, really careful with that, because if you forget to change the name, then that's just like really embarrassing, and you don't want to do that. When did you hear back from schools? I think I heard from almost all my schools by mid-April. I got accepted to Delaware April 11th. I had already been waitlisted, but they were like, those are one of the last notifications I had in my inbox. But I didn't, like I said, I didn't hear from Salus until May, so it all depends. Some people heard back as early as like end of February. So, does it matter if a program is MA, MS, or MEd? Does not matter. You ask any SLP and they will tell you. We all have the same degree when we come out of it. I think it just matters like the college that their speech program is under, whether it's MA or MS or not, or MEd. Good minors for SLP majors. Someone asked me like, what would be a good minor for a speech major that will like help them in grad school. I was a psychology minor and I think that really helped me. Same with like neuroscience. I had a lot of friends that were public health, anything in education, or a language like Spanish or ASL. I think those are really good choices as well. Last question, was UD your number one? So I didn't have a number one. Every school I applied to I really liked and would have been 100% happy going there, and I think that is the key, is just making sure every school that you apply to, you would be 100% happy being a student there and accepting their offer. So yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I hope I answered all of your questions. If you have any more, feel free to leave a comment below, send me an email, send me a DM. The next video is just going to be all about my experience at Delaware and what grad school is like. So if you have any questions about that, same thing, DM me, leave me a comment, send me an email. I'll see you guys next time.